because more than that will be very difficult to understand and keep in memory if in one session, right? Isn't it? It will become extremely large if I have to discuss more. But suffice you to say, the chapter number 3 of Bhagavad Gita is itself called as Karma Yoga. The title itself is Karma Yoga. Hmm? Now, naturally, karma is a Sanskrit word, and everybody is aware of it. Karma means action, right? Of course, karma can also mean reaction to action. Sometimes we say, right? Are his karma is so bad. What do you mean by karma so bad? The reaction of his previous actions are so bad. Yes? So there can be more than one meaning, but what the meaning I am taking here is karma here means the actions which a person performs, right? So if you have to attach the term karma and yoga, will it not be like sort of a very strange term? Why? Because yoga is spiritual, whereas karma is material. Is it not true? Karma is material. All actions in this world are material, whereas yoga is something which is spiritual. So how you can have a karma yoga? What is the meaning of this? It's like saying that you have a uh, dry water. The water means wet. How can you have dry water? Yeah, dry water. You cannot have a dry water. The water will always be wet. Then how can you have karma yoga? Karma is all material. Yoga is all spiritual. So what is this karma yoga? It's junction of material and spiritual. So karma yoga in the shastras is a explanation given that how in general one can, while continuing to do different actions in this world, integrate spirituality in one's life. This is what the meaning of karma yoga is. So within the action itself, we have to plant the seed of spirituality. That is the thing. Yeah? Within the actions itself, we have to plant the seed of spirituality. This does not happen on its own. This requires some knowledge, some understanding, and some practice. Right? And that's what my discussion will be. This is very brief introduction. So I told three things in this brief introduction. Karma Yoga is a topic being discussed in third, fourth, and fifth chapter of Bhagavad Gita. But it's a very vast subject. If you have to refer to in details, apart from Bhagavad Gita, also you have to take other books like Srimad Bhagavatam, which dedicate full chapters on this, big chapters on this. Second thing I said that karma here refers to your general actions which are all in the material world, in this material, realm. So then I asked you that is it not that they both are opposite terms, which they are. So what is the meaning of it? It means we have to plant the seed of spirituality within our actions. So this is the meaning of this topic. Okay, it's a short introduction. Now we will start discussion. So before a discussion, let's start the prayers. So please repeat after me. ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघायते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरो दीनतारिणम् हरे कृष्णा. So maybe I should begin with a story that will help you to remember more. Let's begin with a story. So how to integrate spirituality within one's actions. So this is a story of three people working on the same project. This project was not software project. This project was on a building, construction site. So three people were working. Exactly the same thing three of them were doing. They were doing masonry. That means they were taking some bricks and they were applying cement and putting them all together. So one onlooker, a person was keenly watching these three people working on that day, and he went and started discussion, started talking to them one by one, one by one. He was going around and he was talking to each and every one of them. So he was asking the same question to them. He first went to the first person and he said, "My dear sir, I am seeing that you are engaged in this work from morning to now. What are you doing?" Simple question. What are you doing? And that man was very fed up. And he was saying like, I don't like this what I do or what to do. Papi पेट का सवाल है. People say, Hare Krishna. Papi पेट का सवाल है. मतलब, I have to do something to feed my belly. Right? So therefore, I am putting this stupid bricks one over another. Can't you see that? That's what I am doing. So he was very fed up with what he was like, frustrated. He was unhappy. He was like always seeing the time. He was wanting to run away from that place. But what was keeping him over there? Papi pet ka sawal. Right? As we say, the necessity of this world. We have to feed ourselves and maybe the family members also. Right? So he was doing that. So then he went a little more ahead and he said, the another person who was doing the very same thing. And he asked him, Sir, what are you doing? From morning to now, you're doing this. What are you doing? And he said, Oh, I am making a wall. You know, my work is to actually make this beautiful wall, which I'm going to do. The strength of the wall should be strong, it should not break. He started describing his work. He was very keenly doing that. He was very interested to do that. Huh? And he was like making it as whatever good he can. But of course, he was telling that actually I have to do this. I like to do this, but I want to go and meet my family members. As soon as it will be 5 o'clock, the bell will ring and I'll be just running. But till then, I should be dutifully doing this work here. I like it. Okay. And then the third person, a little more ahead, and he said, Sir, I have been seeing that from morning to now you have been doing this work. What are you actually doing? And the third person said, Oh, you know what I am doing? Actually, I am making the temple of my Lord. This is the wall which is going to be the part of the temple of my Lord. And that is what I am doing. And the peculiar thing about this person was he was totally absorbed in his work, complete, absolute stillness, as you would find in a person. Like you have seen, if you were to close your eyes and I talk about what do you mean by samadhi, most of you will describe to me samadhi means full absorption, right? Complete oneness in whatever you are doing, isn't it? Absolute samadhi, complete absorption, fixity on the purpose, and not even any other distracting thoughts which are coming. That was the state of this person. He was totally absorbed. He was completely into it. He didn't want to come out of it. The 5 o'clock bell was a distraction for him. He had to stop it forcefully so that he has to come back again and next day he starts his work. That's exactly what you call as a karma yogi. A short story, but bang on. It actually tells what the meaning of karma yoga is. In the right, without even telling any slokas, I have informed you what it means. Now, naturally, do you know psychologically? Because I happen to be a psychologist, I have to tell you about the psychology part of it, along with a devotee of Lord Krishna, which I'm trying to be. But I'm also, psychologist who talks about well-being psychologically. Do you know this? This is one of the necessity of human beings to experience a higher taste in one's action. Do you know this? Most of the, according to the psychology, the surveys, what we do, 80% people are not willing to go to their work on the Monday morning. 80%. And some of you are smiling, and I can understand that. You don't have to say anything. One smile says everything. 80% people. Now, this survey was done in 2004. Okay. And this was done in 120 nations of the world. And there were more than 10 lakh people who were surveyed for this. It was not like 10 people or 100 people. How many? 10 lakh people in 120 nations of the world. And what was the statistics? 80% plus people do not want to go to the work on Monday morning, which means they're frustrated. They're like first person who is frustrated with the work which they're doing. Like, "Arey, hatao yaar, papi paid ka." If they were getting the salary at home, they will never go to the office. They're like that, isn't it? Just somehow complete it, bare minimum, finish it so that you are not thrown out of the job. Yes. And we have to see the dreadful looking face of the boss who's always frowning at us. Deadline. You are not completing the work. So the person has to chastise and somehow get the work done, or the dangling carrot has to be shown to the person. You can get promotion. You can get promotion. Somehow work. That's called as the stick and the carrot philosophy. This is one of the way of management. Stick and carrot management, it is called this. So when a person does not do the work, either you show him a stick or you show him a carrot. You understand? That's called a stick and carrot management. So stick means punishment. Hey, I will fire you. Or carrot means promotion. Hey, I'll give you promotion. Do this work. Do this work. Depends on how your manager is. They use these one of these two. Stick and carrot management. So the first type of workers who fret their work, they don't want to go there, and they're feeling like, when will the Friday evening come? I'll be having my own time. They have to be applied the stick and carrot philosophy, on them. Not the best strategy, not the best way to manage people, but this is how most of the world is running. Okay. So, but you know what? Psychologically, a person has to experience some sort of absorption in whatever they are doing in the day. Today, very many people are found to spend an extreme amount of time on their mobiles. And we start blaming the digital devices. Oh, this digital technology is a curse and why it has happened like that. But if you read the history was not very different. Yes, we do have devices today which were not existing in the 19th century, in the 20th century. It just came in the 21st century, maybe just 15 years ago. I remember when I was an engineer, first year college student, I didn't have a mobile to talk to my mother back at home, who was 1,200 kilometers away from me when I was staying in a hostel. Okay. So we didn't have mobile technology at that time. This was in 2003. We didn't have such a technology. Now you do have a technology. Yes, digital devices are new, but the principle of feeling frustrated and bored in one's work, it's not new. This isn't new. Yes, we have devised new means, for distracting ourselves from the pain which we feel. Previously, what used to people do? What people used to do when they used to be feeling frustrated from their work? What would they do? And they would want to have some recreation, and they will maybe have some. Okay, let's go somewhere, picnic. Okay, family ke saath kahin bahar jao. Or TV came. In the 1980s and all, 1990s it became very popular, right? Television. So earlier, you had television, you just sit in front of the TV chalega, or you go to cinema hall, just enjoy life some way or other. Why? Why people have to do this? Because they are bored, because they are frustrated, they are unhappy. There is no meaning in sitting in front of television. There's no meaning in sitting in front of cinema. Just like there is no meaning in just scrolling mindlessly and browsing, nowadays shorts or reels, whatever you say that, right? Just keep browsing, 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 browsing. Why? We are feeling bored. That's why we are feeling unhappy. We are feeling, Arey Baba, better than this work in front of me, better let me do this. That's what you mean, basically. You don't like what you are doing. That's why you are doing this, scrolling. Huh? So this technology is new, but feeling frustrated and bored is not new. That's not new. People were feeling frustrated and bored even earlier also. Right? It's not that the work earlier was inherently joyful. No, no, it was not. Right. So people were feeling unhappy. Therefore, people devised several means of entertainment. That's why they devised it. Do you know that the maximum happiness a person gets is not by sitting in front of a television or a cinema, etc. The maximum happiness, one of them, there are many levels of greater, higher taste and higher happiness. I am talking from Karma Yoga principle. Okay, from the Karma Yoga principle, the higher taste or the high happiness which you get while being absorbed in meaningful work, right, is hundreds and thousands of times greater than what you get in sitting in front of a cinema or this YouTube videos or whatever you do, social media, etc. That's what we are hankering for actually. We are hankering for that taste, that happiness, that my work can give me, that satisfaction, that having produced something good and meaningful, you feel so joyful. Ah, I did this, I could complete it. Wow, it's exactly like that worker who's admiring his own work. He's actually seeing that wall which he's making as a part of the temple of the Lord. And you know what? He's just making it as perfect as he can. Sometimes he sees a part of this wall has not come out well, and he breaks off, some of the pieces of that wall, and again constructs it to make sure that it is perfect. You know, to make sure that his artwork, whatever he is doing, is all perfect, and that gives him great happiness. This absorption is necessary for human beings, right? This absorption is necessary for human beings. So this is of course from Karma Yoga principle. There is also higher than this taste. So Karma Yoga can give you that happiness which humans are hankering for. Even higher than that happiness is also absorption in the devotion of the Lord, in the direct spirituality also, like chanting of the holy names. So when you are chanting the holy names, you can experience such an absorption which will completely stir such happiness within that you actually hanker for it more and more. At least a few moments of such happiness a person requires on a daily basis. Otherwise, that person will be feeling miserable, unhappy, frustrated, even though one may have money, bank balance, and everything else. You may have a car, you may have a bungalow, you may have everything, but still you feel bored. Still you feel frustrated. You don't know what am I doing, You don't have happiness in life. Yes, that's the principle of Karma Yoga and the Bhakti Yoga, which basically gives you the higher happiness, which Lord has kept for us, either through Karma Yoga or through Bhakti Yoga or through both. Okay, so having said this, let me show you what Krishna speaks. Three shlokas I have taken, starting from, we'll just cover three because, as I said, the principles are too many in the Bhagavad Gita. It's a very technical description. I will just take some three principles and teach you, which would be meaningful for you, something which you learned today, and you can directly apply in your own life. That's what we are looking for. Can I go forward? Are you all happy? You are liking what I'm speaking? Okay, fine. Thank you. So maybe what we will do, I'll make it bigger, and you can try to recite this after me. One shloka, one line. Okay, very small only. It's not difficult. Yes, I think this is good enough. Yes, yastva indriyani manasa niyamya rabhate arjuna कर्मेन्द्रिय कर्मयोगम असक्ता स विशिष्यते. Once more this shloka. Yastra indriyani manasa niyamya rabhate arjuna कर्मेन्द्रिय कर्मयोगम asakta sa vishishyate. So let's see the translation. Translation says, he who. So Gita is not gender specific. It's like man, woman, both. It's applicable to. So generally, we have to take one gender to be able to communicate, right? That's why it is he. He does not mean like it's only for a man. It's also for man, woman. Okay. He who, controlling the senses by the mind, aiming for the Atma, performs Karma Yoga with his active senses at the same time, being free from attachment to the results, is superior to a person acting prematurely from the position of Jnana. So I'm not going to go into extreme technicalities, but I'll just make you focus on few words of this shloka. Okay. So first of all, you can see this word karma yogam directly it has come here. You can see. So this verse or this rather full chapter itself is on karma yoga. Okay. So what is Krishna saying? Yastva indriyani manasa. That person, yastva, that person. Who is that person? What he is doing? He is doing indriyani. Indriyani means senses, your senses. Multiple senses are there, not just one. Right? So therefore, indriyani, multiple, many senses. Manasa niyam arabhyate. So this is the so we have to pay attention on yeah, on this. On asaktaha and indriyani niyamya. Two words we are actually going to focus on this. Indriyani niyamya means he regulates one's senses. Indriyani means senses, niyamya means he regulates. Niyam. Niyam means discipline, regulation, checking, not allowing to just do whatever they like. Right? Rather checking them and keeping them in check. That's what is indriyani niyamya. That's what it means. Okay, so the person, what does he do? He keeps his senses in check, regulates them. That is one thing which is being told here. Which means it's not that whatever the senses are saying, we simply start doing so. For example, when you go in the front of a shop, you see some nice sweets kept over there. You know? Suppose you go in front of a sweet meat shop, confectionery shop. You go there, you see very beautiful, nice rasgulla is kept there. Right? And you are feeling hungry. Your eyes are seeing, oh, wow, I wanted to eat this. Your mind is saying, come on, let me eat this. But you just go and put your hand into it and you just put the rasgulla inside your mouth. Do you do that? You keep a check, right? Why? Because that won't be appropriate that you just go into the shop and you just, without even asking somebody who is a shopkeeper, without giving them money, yeah, you just start putting your hand into it and you start putting into the rasgulla into your mouth. Yes or no? So there has to be checking of the senses. In normal circumstances also you can see this example. That you cannot allow your senses to do whatever they are asking. There has to be a check. Otherwise, you will be behind the bars, right? The police will come and say, hey, why are you looting somebody's property? Correct or not? But when a cow goes to the same confectionery shop, what does the cow do? The cow also sees the rasgulla and cow feels hunger. And what does the cow do? She doesn't think about rules and regulations. Directly puts the mouth inside the food and starts. The police will not come and put inside the cow inside the bars, will you? No. These rules are for human beings. Karma yoga is for human beings, not for animals. Last time we were discussing on this. What is the difference between animals and humans? Human beings can follow dharma, right? Whereas animals are not expected to follow it. They cannot do so. It's impossible for them. Here is the elaboration of it. Karma yoga can be followed and should be followed for the human beings. Those humans who do not follow regulation in their activities, they come down to the level of animals only. So nowadays, they have this, that um, whatever you like, you do it. Whenever you like, you do it. You should not have any rules and regulations. Why there are rules? Sometimes people say that. Why in spirituality you have rules? It's not just in spirituality. You have rules everywhere. Don't you have rules in school? No rules, huh? In school, you have no rules. Oh my God. How can you say that? So many rules are there. Some of you are teachers also, perhaps. You know rules. You make those rules. Yes or no? If you are a teacher, he knows. There are rules, right? He's studying in some school, surely. Right? So many rules are there. If you go late in the school, what will happen? The teacher will say, why you come late? There is a punishment, right? You have rules everywhere. Some people say in the temple, why there are Arey Baba, rules are there. Every human beings, matlab, there are rules. That's why there is a court. Correct? If you don't follow rules, there is a court for you. Correct? So rules are there. For humans, there is dharmic rules. So the first principle to be understood is Indriya, our senses should be restricted by dharma. That is the first principle of Karma Yoga. You cannot allow your senses to do just whatever they are liking. In fact, the senses are weak. Each of your senses can cause trouble to you. Yes, the tongue is very voracious. That's why I gave you example of the tongue. Basically, you see the food and your tongue is saying, I like, I want, It's very voracious. It's extremely powerful urge, actually, to enjoy the taste. But then you check it. You keep it under the check of dharma, right? If I go to someone's house, even your small child, you will say, beta, no, 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 no. You say, right? Like you the inside the train, there's so many ferry walas who come, they can bring this, different pakoda, samosa, chai, whatever. And your son may say, but daddy, hey, wait, no, 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 wait, no, no, no. You say, no, no, you should not. You should only eat this which is healthy for you. Your mama has already brought. Correct. You have to say that. And the child has to be trained. By the time he grows up, he understands, okay, this food is not good for me, that food is good for me. Right? So similarly, God is also telling you have to follow dharma, just like you tell to your child. Similarly, there is a dharmic regulation on each of our senses. We have to apply. So for the tongue eating, so you should eat only such substances which are allowed for the human beings. Of course, we can enjoy the taste. There's nothing wrong. Like for example, last time when you came, we tried to offer you some nice tasty prasadam. Did you like it? Yes, I hope so. Whenever you come here, you can always have nice tasty prasadam. So there are varieties of foodstuffs which you can enjoy, but there are certain foodstuffs which are prohibited, which you should not be eating because they are not good for the human society. Why? Because it will pull you down to the lower animal level. See, can you apply this rule on an animal? No. Can you say to a tiger, this goat, you should not jump. As soon as goat is there, he will jump only. You just can't think of anything else. I want. Right? You cannot say, no, there should be a dharmic regulation for you. No. Dharma is only for humans. So this is what it means. Karma yoga means for each of your senses, you should have a check, right? So that is called as first principle of Karma Yoga. Understood? Not very difficult, it's simple. So if you can keep each of your senses checked under the regulation of Dharma, you are following the Karma Yoga. And this will help you to not experience unhappiness. So this can be applied on practical level. So your eyes may want to keep watching certain things, like say video or whatever. Now you have to keep a check on it. Like how much time should I watch? First of all, right? Like you just keep 3 hours, 4 hours. I mean, you'll be frustrated. At the end of 4 hours, you're not entertained. You feel frustrated. Yes or no? You feel like, Are, why did I do this? Why did you do this? Because you allowed your senses to go unregulated. Got it? Correct or not? You allowed your senses to get pulled by a certain pleasure. Yes? There was some pleasure, you got pulled by it, you didn't think the boundary of dharma. Right? The boundary of dharma. That is why you actually got into it. Got it, no? So this is the first principle. And it's not difficult, but it's not very easy. So therefore, there are supporting principles to it. Hmm? So like for example, from the nose, from the tongue, each of our indriya is demanding. For the ears are demanding very sweet sound, nice, sounds. Huh? So each of the, like for the skin, like we want some soft things, to be touching, not hard, harsh things which are pricking, right? Each of our senses demand pleasure. And there's nothing wrong in obtaining pleasure, but those pleasures should be under the boundary of one's dharma. That is the thing. And those dharmas are mentioned where? They're not manufactured by humans. That is given in the Vedas. So I was telling, for example, for the case of eating, so certain foodstuffs are prohibited for the humans. For example, liquor. Now, I have never tasted liquor. But why do people go and start drinking liquor? Liquor? Huh? One thing is peer pressure. That will come later. It will come in some time. But it's not just that. Because people feel some pleasure in it. Right? I'm drinking. Maza aa raha hai. Like imagine if he's drinking and is feeling very bad. Will he be drinking it? I have never drunk it, but like people, those who drink, they're attached to it. They can't give it up actually, right? So this is a prohibited thing for human beings. They should not do it. Liquor is prohibited. Similarly, tobacco. Tobacco is also prohibited. Why? Because it is extremely intoxicating. Intoxication means what? Your mind is not stable. That is called as intoxication. Now you cannot think clearly. No longer you are able to think in the peaceful manner. Your mind is agitated, either not able to think only or thinking in very illusory way, right? So hallucinating way that you can't discriminate right and wrong. So they say don't drink and drive. They say right on the rules. Don't drink and drive. They say right. Why? Because after drinking, when you start driving, you don't know where to go. Somebody else's house you park your car and say, "I पहुंच गया." You're basically drunk, intoxicated, actually, and you will cause, of course, the accidents also on the road naturally, right? So certain foodstuffs, certain things are prohibited for human beings. Yeah, no problem. I mean, maybe you can give him chair, give her chair. Why did you give her chair? Maybe she'll be more happy to be able to sit on chair. Okay. So the point I'm mentioning is certain foodstuffs are prohibited. So similarly, foodstuffs which create violence, right? Violence in this world, that type of foodstuffs also should be prohibited. So what is the meaning of violence? Like if your food has been obtained by which somebody has to get killed, somebody has to get hurt, you should avoid that kind of foodstuff because it's creating violence. And why should we unnecessarily causing violence to someone? There's no need, right? There is no reason. Why should we be causing violence? Because God has already given us various foodstuffs to eat where you do not have to do any violence. For example, when you go and in front of a banana tree, what violence do you have to do to get a banana? Nothing. If you don't take it, it will fall on the ground. Yes or no? It will fall on the ground if you don't take it. Apples. What violence do you have to do to get the apples? If you don't pluck it, it will anyway fall. It will just mango. It will fall. Like there is a jamun tree. There is a jamun tree on this in the street. Because people don't pluck it, it just falls. So many jamuns, they're on the street, like that. So you don't do violence by plucking that fruit. And if you eat that fruit, it's so tasty. It satisfies your hunger. It satisfies your tongue also. Very nice, happy. Mangoes, who doesn't like? Like mangoes, bananas, like favorite foods of so many people, right? So similarly, the cow's milk. What do you have to do violence on the cow to get the milk? Because cow always has more milk than she can feed her child. Like if anybody is from village background, they know this very well. They won't allow the calf to keep drinking after some time because it will cause indigestion to the calf. So only from one of the udders, the calf is drinking, but the three udders, basically he takes out milk for the human beings. So 3/4 of the milk is going to humans. Only 1/4 is going to the calf. So God has already given her so much milk. Who? To the cow. You don't have to do any violence. In fact, if you don't take out that milk, then the udder is big, right? It's heavy for the cow. So she feels uncomfortable actually. According to her system, she feels uncomfortable. Like, Are Bapre, it's like heavy, for her. So you take out the milk every evening and you be happy. And the cow is happy. Cow eats grass and gives you milk. You drink the milk. From the milk, you can make so many varieties of sweets. So many sweets you make, khowa you make, buttermilk you make. Yeah, you make butter also, ghee also. So many varieties. Laddu ghee. Like desi ghee ka laddu. Desi ghee comes from where? From milk only. Paneer, milk only. Right? So many varieties. So many tasty varieties. I think today evening they are making paneer, sorry, not paneer, butter masala. What is it? Huh? Batata, something like that, no? Masala, which is having paneer. Now, paneer is coming from mother cow only. Now, that is not prohibited because no violence. There is no violence in that. You happily take it. So, the wheat, you take rice. What violence you have to do for getting the wheat and rice? So, like it's anyway going to, it's like coming out from that. You have to take it out. Otherwise, it's going to be wasted actually. Yes or no? So those who have done farming, they know this more than me also. I have theoretical knowledge of it. Yeah, but this is the point. So these are foodstuffs kept for humans, where there is zero violence actually. Zero violence. Most of the vegetables, they are like that. Most of the vegetables, if you don't cut that vegetable which is coming, it will get spoiled actually. If it remains on the plant gets spoiled. Right. You have to cut it so that the plant can remain happy and healthy. That's how it is actually. Right. Right. So these are the foodstuffs which are meant. But if the foodstuffs are creating violence on the others, that is where you have a check of dharma. No, this is not good for me. This will create unnecessary violence in the society. So, one who can do that is the person who is following karma yoga. You got this? Because the first principle here, Krishna is saying, is indriyani niyamya. You must regulate your senses. If you have to regulate, there must be a principle of regulation based on something you regulate. Something is right and something is wrong, right? So that is called as dharma. This makes sense to you? And this is for each of our senses. Each of our senses. Right? Senses demand pleasure, and Krishna or God has given us enough pleasure in this world, which is under the boundary of dharma. When you try to cross that boundary of dharma, that is when your actions will produce misery for you. Although you think that it's pleasure, but ultimately what will come to you? Misery. Right? Understand? So, for example, the relationship between man and woman also has a boundary of dharma. Somebody was asking me, sir, don't you allow love marriages? We say, of course, we allow love in marriages. You should have love after marriage. Then your marriage will be very stable and happy. Correct? Otherwise, love at first sight, divorce as first fight. That's what people get into actually. Love at first fight, sorry, first sight, and divorce at first fight. Where people are short-lived, relationships. But there should be love after marriage. So, in fact, the principle of love is also sacrifice for each other. The man and the woman, it's not that they're just, wanting, seeking pleasure from each other. Rather, they're doing something to make the other person happy. That is what is called as dharma. So, by which you can, there is a sacrificing relationship where you enjoy happiness. If there is no sacrifice but in the relationship between husband and wife, that relationship will go to completely doldrum, right? Yeah. Anyway, so that is we'll come to that very soon. The second thing in here is asaktaha. That's interesting. Now this goes one more higher level. Asaktaha. So the Sanskrit is simple. Asaktaha. Saktaha means attached. So asaktaha will means detached, opposite of it. Detached. Detached from what? Detached from one's own enjoyment. So work is okay, karma yoga, karma is okay, but karma should be done without the desire for one's own enjoyment. Now, how is it possible? Sometime before we were saying that all our senses demand pleasure. Yes, that's okay. We can supply them, but within the boundary of dharma. But now the second thing Krishna is saying, you should be asaktaha. Which means when you perform work, the prime motive of it should not be enjoyment. The prime motive. It should be something else. Okay, if it is not your enjoyment for which you work, then what do you work for? Think about it. What do you work for? Prabhu is saying, okay, let's come to something which is more we are able to think. Huh? So let's talk about that. What do you work for? Like what is being said is don't work for your enjoyment. Then what do you work for? फिर किस लिए काम करने का? Huh? Others happiness? People's how do you give people enjoyment? Seva. Oh, that's interesting. Huh? That's interesting. But then what will happen to your own family and what will happen to your needs of life? What about that? Yes. Please the boss. And the boss will keep on getting all the anand. And you keep suffering. Huh? Okay. What is it then? If you don't, Krishna is speaking this. Like these are not my words. Huh? These are not my statements. These are directly statements from Bhagavad Gita. I am trying to just explain them through examples. Now, what do you do then? Like, what is the meaning of asaktaha? Working not for your enjoyment. But what does it mean? For survival, that's too boring if you have to just work for survival. Sometimes people say survival of the fittest, but those who are wise, they know that even the fittest don't survive. Like people say that survival of the fittest, but actually the fittest are also not surviving. Everybody has to die in this world. Okay, that's one more good point. The work itself is enjoyment. Have you thought of it? That's interesting point, huh? Work itself has become enjoyment. You're not working so that you can get enjoyment after that. What is it? The work itself has become enjoyment. Wow, that's interesting. Huh? How can that happen, Baba? ये कैसे हो सकता है? Work itself has become enjoyment. बहुत मुश्किल है. How to find that job where work itself has become enjoyment? Okay, anyhow, like I'll give you a few examples. After that, we'll try to put it into practical application. Okay, why does the mother go into the kitchen? To cook. That's her job, right? Job profile. But what is she doing? Is she cooking for her enjoyment? Generally, mothers don't do so. They eat the last. Sometimes they don't eat also sufficiently. I'm not saying that they starve, but sometimes they, like, I have seen my wife and I become very annoyed because her husband's, the happiness of wife is in feeding the husband. But happiness of husband is in seeing wife eating nice food. So there is a competition between me and her. She's, oh, you have to get happiness. I said, no, no, you have to. So I am 100% sure that mothers don't go inside kitchen for their enjoyment. In fact, if you have to cook for yourself, you generally don't cook also. Yes or no? Those who are ladies, they can 100% agree to it. And those men who like cooking, they also know it. Like I was living for few years alone. Not by my choice, but actually my service had to be like this. So, I used to cook minimum during that time. But when, there are some devotees who came together where I was staying together, then I was cooking for them. Now, because we are together, now I'll cook, Why? Because I can cook for someone. But cooking for oneself, too much difficult. That's why you have this Swiggy and Zomato and everything else. For oneself, okay, you can order. Oh, but your family? Oh, then the mother or the wife, she's so concerned of the health of the family. No, no, no Swiggy, Zomato. I will only cook. It's bad for health. Correct? Yeah. So why does a mother go inside the kitchen? I'm just very like common thing which happens in everyone's home, right? Very common. Why does she go inside the kitchen? Feeding the family. What is the meaning? Giving happiness to someone else, right? Giving happiness to somebody whom you love, right? For someone whom you love. If you love your family, right? So you're working for someone else actually. Generally speaking, work should not be performed according to Bhagavad Gita, the dharmic principles, the Karma Yoga principles. Work should not be seen as a means for one's own enjoyment. So, of course, at one level, we can be family centered, which is higher than self centered. Can you see if I have to make circles, the self is at the smallest circle, right? Then the higher circle than that is the family circle. But for those who are little more expansive and their minds have become more mature, they don't just work even for a small family. They think for a larger number of people. They think about a bigger circle, which is called a society. Right? There are people around you. You work so that you can do something for them. For instance, when a family man is earning, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, you have to feed your family. There's nothing wrong in that. However, there are dogs on the street. They also need food, right? And they're dependent on us. Where else they're going to get their food from? They're dependent on you. If you make one extra roti in your house, you can give to them. And if everybody is making one extra, they will have surplus. They won't fight ever. They have more than something to eat actually. They will say enough is enough, Baba. Bahut ho gaya. Everybody is making one roti extra. That's too much actually. But that is the principle of Karma Yoga. Think about others' welfare. That's integrating spirituality within your work. Yes? Think about others' welfare. There are people dependent on you. Have you seen sometimes there are urchins on the street or poor people? Just like, like one day, sometimes my heart becomes very much, I feel very aggrieved by seeing somebody in pain. So one day I was seeing this, on the street, this one person lives just in front. I don't want to unnecessarily point out people because everybody has a right to live. Everybody should be respected. But yes, by economic standard, he's very poor. So one day I was seeing him and I was feeling like, how can I eat my food inside when he is not having outside in his own plate? So then, we decided, okay, we will going to feed him as much as we can. Right. So therefore, that is the principle of karma yoga, that you just don't work for your enjoyment. Actually, you're working so that there are people who are in need. So in the sometimes in the Hindi movies also they try to show this thing. Of course, I am not saying that Hindi movies are the way you should learn philosophy. They teach you many wrong things. But sometimes they also teach you this, that, unless you have kick in your life, that something you are working for, it's giving you like, somebody else's life has become better by my work. You don't feel like going to work only. Sometimes they have movies like that, they show this kind of things. But that's true. It's not just in the movies, in the real life, it's actually true. That you are working not just for your enjoyment, you're actually working so that there are people who are in need. They get something from you. If you keep that in your heart, oh my God, how much motivation you will have to work. Think about it. Like, you will have a lot of motivation to do something, right? Just like a mother has motivation to go inside the kitchen. She may not be feeling hungry also, actually. But still she goes and yes, I want to make, I'm sure your mother does it, right? Right. She goes inside and she'll make this also, that also. It's not just about feeding the belly, it's about pleasing the tongue. Right? This also, that also, so many different varieties. And the poor lady, she may not even like those things which she is cooking. She may not even like also. Like sometimes, in my case, my wife is little bit, very simple. She doesn't like, too much of this puris. And so we are from North India. So we like this puri, halwa, and paratha. But she doesn't like them only. So I feel like, why should I ask her to make? Suppose she makes and she will feed me only. She won't take that. But that's what gives them happiness. So similarly, when you are working, I am not suggesting you become a sage. Or what you can become is, you can think about how you can also serve extended family, society, not just a small family, that's okay, but also the extended family, which is the larger society. Shall I add a little more in this, which is what Gita explains in many other places? It's not in this words, but many other places. You are liking what I'm speaking? Are you happy with this? Right. So you are knowing how to integrate spirituality in our common day actions. Right. So there are many people in need. We must try to add positively to the life of at least few people, which is according to your choice. I'm not saying this or that. It's up to you what you wish to. I give you an example. Just make one more chapati extra at your home. Just feed to the dog who is outside. You will feel so happy. You will feel like, yeah, I did something good today. Right? Now, what to speak of something more if you can do, right? These are small actions we can always add in our life. Hmm? Right. Some people also want to, like, like there are many people, like for example, like orphans. They don't have even father and mother. Can we add positively to their well-being as well? Think about it. If you earn more, you can do something more. That's the whole point, right? And there are many people in need and the various varieties of services which you can offer in the society. But Gita takes it one more higher level. This is good at its level, but it takes it to a higher level. Gita also says further that actually work itself should be a contribution. Here I was talking about the outcome of work, which is your money, gets used to serve someone. This is at one level, which is very good. But Gita takes it to even higher level. that the work itself is a contribution. So that is called as meaningful work. Now, this in our present society will be a revolutionary thought. Why? Because today nobody is following Karma Yoga, especially the business people, they are not following Karma Yoga. I do talk to them, you know. So therefore, we have this entrepreneurship cell which we have also opened to help businesses which are formed on the principle of Karma Yoga. But today's businesses are not like that. Today's businesses are competitive. In fact, it's opposite to Karma Yoga. They want to destroy others, actually. The way the companies are, they want to kill competition and like remove, like a big, I don't want to make names because if I take names, you are aware of these things. You are all, and you are living in this world, you are aware of it. But the kind of competition where they kill the entire competition only. Monopoly they try to create, or duopoly. Duopoly means just one or two big giant players. Actually, that's not the way Krishna has defined the economic system. It has to be many small players. Everybody has a right to do their own business or whatever. But nowadays, the business people are not following that Karma Yoga principle. It's like just eating away the small businesses, making them fully dependent on that large business, and then exploiting. Because now it's a price war between the two people only. Or many times it's monopoly, or sometimes it's duopoly. Hardly you will find there today a fair competition. You will not find that. But anyway, that's a separate thing. What if we think our work itself as a contribution? That will be more interesting. For example, in the case of a mother, her work itself has become a contribution, right? Her work itself has become a contribution. Similarly, if my work can become a contribution to the society, that will be great. I'll give you one example of this, which I can say from the today's world example. So in 2016, I had visited one doctor. So my health was a bit not very healthy. So I went to one doctor, Kerala, Ayurvedic doctor, a very famous place. So this Kottakal Ayurveda Vaidyashala. So I had gone, and a very famous old doctor. He's like 64 years. Now he'll be 70 actually. That time he was like 61 or 62. So very old man. He was treating me. And he was following this Karma Yoga principle. So what was his philosophy? So he said to me, I keep my charges as less as I can. Only that what I need. Because I want to serve the needy people. I want to serve the people through my profession, which is Ayurvedic doctor. I want to serve, I don't want to charge exorbitantly large amounts. So his fees was very minimal, but he was an expert in his field, complete expert. That's why I had actually gone from very far off place to his clinic. And there was like a huge line. So many people were coming, Why? Because he was extremely famous in his own talent. Now that man, if he wants to charge, even if he charges 2,000 rupees per person, per patient, there'll still be a huge line. There still will be a huge line. But he was only charging 250 or 300 rupees back then, 2016-17. Just that small amount. Right? The second thing he told me, well, because, when I get such people, I don't leave opportunity. I always talk. So I used to visit him monthly. And once I had to stay back for 1 or 2 days there. So that time I made a lot of friendship with him. So I used to discuss Bhagavad Gita and all with him. And he was very happy. He said, okay, only very few people are talking about this. So in fact, he told me, if in future you have anybody who wants to learn Ayurveda, send him here. I'll give him accommodation and I'll also teach him. Because I want that this art should remain alive. I said, of course, I'll send people. Anyway, so second thing he was doing was, every Friday was a complete free day. Which means that any patient who arrives on Friday will be treated totally free of charge, zero cost on Friday. He said to me, I work 6 days, one day I offer completely as service. And rest of the 5 days I don't charge exorbitantly. I charge what is needed for me. That much is sufficient for me. I can live happily with my family, everything. He had by the time I went here, he had a big bungalow. Why? Because he was very famous. He was getting huge amount of money. Right? At the time when I met him, he had a nice bungalow. But if he wants, he can make it double, triple, as today's world is, more. Who doesn't like an extra cash with him? But this is Karma Yoga. What is Karma Yoga? Your profession itself is a contribution. Amazing, right? So I'm giving you live examples. I'm not talking about something which was 10,000 years ago. I'm talking about here, now. People can do that. So you can think in your own ways. So this principle of asaktaha means you are not working for just your own enjoyment. Actually, working in this way produces satisfaction. Otherwise, working just for your own enjoyment will actually give you in return misery. Are you getting it? In return, it gives you misery. As I told you, the survey, 80% plus people don't want to go to work, on the Monday morning. That's one of these reasons. These are the reasons. Because people are not following the principles of Karma Yoga. So, okay, there are many more things. I could last 50 minutes cover one shloka. I had thought of two more, but maybe this can be done some other time. Hmm? Because um, I should respect time. I have another thing to start at 8. So at least 8:05 for sure. I have to start one class. So definitely we have 10-15 minutes. We can have some questions and answers. I'll just wind this up, just conclude, and then we can have some questions and answers. After that, we can have, I think, Damodar Arti they will do, and then you can have Prasadam. So, conclusion, adding spirituality to your day to day work will actually give you great satisfaction in your life. Maybe you cannot change the nature of your work. Maybe you cannot change your company. Well, those things are out of our control. But still, we can add spirituality in our day to day action. So, I spoke two principles. There are many more to come. But these two are also something which you can start practicing right now. So, the first one was that there has to be Indriyani Niyamya, which means the senses should not be allowed to go wild, right? Unchecked. They should be checked by the principle of dharma. So all our senses demand pleasure, and there's nothing wrong to give them pleasure under the dharmic regulation, not beyond it. We should be satisfied with whatever happiness and sensual happiness we can get within the boundary of dharma. This is the first principle of the yoga or karma yoga. And I explained about eating, I explained about man woman relationship, but it can be extended to each pleasure which is there through our senses. Okay. So within the eating, I said there are foodstuffs to be avoided and there are foodstuffs which you can enjoy. In fact, with those foodstuffs also, there's a next principle which will come, that is after a few shlokas, that those foodstuffs also you can offer to God, then take it. That is the best form of eating actually. It's not that we cannot eat, it's not we cannot enjoy our tongue, pleasure. We can do so, but within the boundary of dharma. That is the karma yoga. Hmm? Then I spoke about that how we should avoid liquor, we should avoid tobacco, cigarettes, things which are forbidden for human beings. Then the second principle was working with detachment of one's own happiness, right? One's own enjoyment. So that I explained in two levels. The first level is that with what you receive after your work, you are not thinking about your own self-centered happiness. Maybe you're thinking about family, but even extended people around you. So think about how you can positively contribute to the well-being of others through your work. Either through the money which you get after work, or even higher level, the work itself is a contribution to the other people's life. So that was, I gave you examples. So I gave you example in the first part that maybe just like there are dogs on the street, so you could be just making some more extra food in your house and feed them. That is karma yoga actually. That is what Krishna is speaking in the Bhagavad Gita. Similarly, like, maybe if you have some income, you plan your income properly. Like, so there should be, for a family man or a woman, there has to be proper planning of the how your expenses are supposed to happen. So I'm sure those who plan, they plan like this. So, okay, there is an emergency fund. You keep that separately. You don't even check it. You don't have to, like, take out anything from there. So of some amount, like you can have your health insurance, you can have your, what do you call that? Life insurance. So that's completely set aside. And some emergency fund you lock. Say few lakhs, you just lock, you just keep them into FD or something which you won't touch. Next comes day-to-day expenses. So you have your monthly budget, monthly things, you have your your expenses to be made for your rent or for your fuel or for your grocery or your clothes or whatever other things which you have to go, maybe your travel, etc. You plan all that out. And then you also plan for the future of your kids. Okay, this I will plan some investment, some SIP or something for my son, so that in future degree he can take, or for my daughter's marriage. People do that. Similarly, you put one more thing. Let me plan for expenditure for people's welfare. That is what the meaning of Karma Yoga principle is. Right? You get it? Just like we plan for all these things, we should also plan for helping people around us. That's the meaning of the Karma Yoga principle. And what to speak if I can add my work itself, if I can have my profession itself in such a way arranged that I'm able to do contribution, that will be the greatest thing which will make you happy. Right. So with this, we'll be having a closure. This is Karma Yoga, and higher than this is Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga means directly remembrance of Krishna, which also we should add in our life. Since today's title was integrating spirituality in our daily actions. That's what I taught you in the last 50 minutes or 1 hour. But also, along with that, there should also be Bhakti Yoga, like remembrance of God, which will anyway come. Actually, future verses I've already told here, all this. But since the time is limited, I'll just end here. So, along with this, you should also be daily chanting the holy names of Krishna. I'm sure that last time many of you took the mala also, and I'm sure many of you would be doing chanting Hare Krishna every day. And if you have probably stopped because of some reasons, then you please again restart. So take it as a commitment that I'll every day chant, like say at least 1 round, 2 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra every day. That is for the pleasure of Krishna. Directly for pleasure of Krishna, I will chant. Maybe once a week I will come and attend such satsang programs. Maybe once in a while I'll also go for some tirth yatras. This is a direct bhakti which we also include in our day-to-day life. Hmm? Okay, thank you so much. Any questions? I have few minutes remaining here. Yes, if you have any questions, anybody has, you can ask me. Okay. Okay. So if you don't have questions, then I will ask you, what did you learn today? What did you learn? What did you like? Any example, any story, anything which you felt like, oh, sir, this was like, oh, this point was very thought provoking for me. Yeah, can you give the mic, Prabhu? Harima? Otherwise, you can just raise your hand and just one by one you can speak. What did you like? What did you learn? Yeah, maybe he wants. Yes, you can speak.
Uh, Generally, I have opinion like what to eat and what not to eat, but I don't know how. I don't have full clarity. But as you said, if nothing. If there is no violence in
Violence.
something, if we want to take,
Yes.
so
Yes.
I got. I mean, I
Yeah.
got some more
Clarity.
understanding of that.
Yes. 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 So one should not create violence through one's
Yeah,
food habits.
yeah, yes.
Correct. If it is hurting somebody, that's definitely not something which you would like to do,
Yeah.
right? Yes. Thank you. That
Thank
point
you.
you liked. Okay. Thank you. Any maybe yes, sir. You can speak. Yeah, please.
So how can we control our senses?
Question.
Is
Okay. This is a question or this
question how
question?
we can control our
Control our senses. Yes. Hmm. So higher than the senses is our mind. The hierarchy is given in the Bhagavad Gita. So senses are at lowest level, then higher than the senses is the mind, and higher than the mind is the intellect, and higher than the intellect is the Atma. This is the hierarchy actually. Senses, mind, intelligence, Atma. This hierarchy. So how can we check our senses? First of all, by making our intelligence stronger. By knowing the consequences of the wrong action. So when we know, array, if I do this wrong action, oh my God, I'll get some bad consequence. Naturally, that intelligence will inhibit that action. Senses are saying, do it, do it. Intelligence is saying, no, 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 no. If you do this, there will be a punishment. So this is the first way. By making our intelligence stronger. How do we make our intelligence strong? By reading the scriptures. That's the way. Like, it's not that by knowing 2 plus 2 equal to 4, our intelligence becomes strong. Uh, our intelligence, which can check our senses, becomes stronger by knowledge of the Vedas. So when we are learning the Vedas, learning the scriptures regularly, naturally our intelligence becomes very strong. And because of which we are able to check our senses. This is one of the standard techniques to control the senses. For example, you came today. So now here you came to know, there are bad consequences of making the senses go wild. So immediately next time, whenever you're doing an action, that thought will come to you. Arey, that I have heard. That is called as intelligence telling you not to do the action. What to say if you daily read 1 or 2 pages of Bhagavad Gita, for example, then what will happen? Your intelligence will be so strong that you will be able to check your senses. And the second is by the power of Atma, the soul being able to check the senses. So, how can the soul check the senses? For that, the soul should become strong. But how does the soul become strong? By coming in contact with God. So, that is by chanting the holy names. So, anybody who chants the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, for example, like if you make a daily practice of chanting Hare Krishna, even one round also, you will find you are able to exercise control over your senses. So, who is exercising? The Atma is able to exercise. Why is the Atma able to exercise? Because Atma is getting empowered by God's holy name. This is the way. Two methods: make your intelligence stronger by reading Vedas, and make your Atma stronger by chanting holy names. This is a standard way of checking one's senses. Hope that helps. Yes.
I have a
Yeah.
question.
Please, please.
Reaction. What is the reaction? How can we understand that?
Yes.
I mean, what I understood is reaction is consequence of action, of course,
Yes.
but that
Yes.
will not be just next to the action.
Correct.
It
Sometimes it is delayed.
It may be delayed. It may happen few
Next
days
life.
after next life also. But we have to understand it right now
Correct.
because we have to do the action.
Yes.
How can we understand
Yeah,
that?
that's why the next, actually, if you observe, this principle I have kept here, if you see in 315, you can see directly it is given here. Karma brahmod bhavam vidhi brahmakshara samudbhavam tasmat sarvagatam brahma nityam yagya pratishtatam. So he says that prescribed action, which means the actions which you should do, are arising from the Vedas. The Vedas arise from the Lord. Therefore, this all pervading Lord is eternally situated in the act of sacrifice. So, in non technical terms, sometimes the terms are little technical. That is one thing. You have to get used to those technical terms, then you can understand. This happens if you study Gita for 3 4 years, then you get used to it. Otherwise, you should hear from a teacher. Otherwise, you don't know what exactly they are saying. Like when you hear from teacher, then teacher can explain. Okay, this is what it means. So basically, what he's saying here is that prescribed actions are given in the Vedas, and the consequences, as you are asking, the consequences of not doing prescribed action are also given inside the Vedas. Right? So we may not be able to observe the consequence in one life only. That's what you are saying. Na? See, for example, a student does not study for 1 semester, or let's say like semester is for college, but let's say for 1 or 2 months. Then there will be a cycle test in school also. There's monthly test cycle or something is there. Na? What will happen if he doesn't study for 1 or 2 months? He'll get bad grades. Immediately the teacher will call the parent-teacher meeting. And the father will come home and say, Patak, direct consequence. But consequences after 2 months. So, but the child observed the consequence. Patak, father has hit me. Then hopefully he will change. Hopefully he will think next time. Next time not to get the slap, better let me study. Correct or not? Yes. Similarly, the boy hooligan, he goes and tries to propose to a girl. And the girl takes out a sandal and immediate consequence, patak. Then hopefully that hooligan will understand that, Baba, this is not the right way. I should not come and do this kind of things. Correct or not? Immediate consequence. But for certain actions, the consequence is very delayed. Like somebody is drinking, but the consequence is not coming only. Correct or not? It will come after 5 years. Sometimes after 10 years. And by that time, he can't reverse it only. Right? So, therefore, it's not that we go by experience. Experience is a good teacher, but a fool learns no other way. Which means an intelligent person does not learn through experience. For instance, do you have to depend on experience to learn that stealing is bad? Like, is it that first we should steal and then the police should catch us and police should take us to a jail and should give you a good beating, and then you realize, oh yeah, now I understood by consequence that stealing is bad. No, right? You can directly read from the Vedas. If you steal, you will get bad consequence in the future. Directly you can read, no? So then you will become smart. You will become intelligent. As I was saying to sir, right? By reading Vedas, our intelligence is strong. Then you will avoid all those actions which are not required for you. So similarly, all consequences cannot be seen immediately. Many consequences may come after one life also. Because some consequences to come, you must become qualified to get them. Dhritarashtra, 100 lifetimes before, he had actually killed the 100 children of one bird. Yes, there was a bird which had 100 children. And he had shot all those 100, the children of the bird. And then the bird had given curse to that Dhritarashtra, that life, Dhritarashtra. Right? What was the curse? That just like you gave pain to me, I had to see the death of my 100 children. You will also have to see the death of your 100 sons. Now, for a man to get 100 sons, Are Baba, to get one son also, you have to do punya. To get 100 sons, so much punya. For 50 lifetimes, he kept on doing punya. After punya achieved for 50 lifetimes, 51st lifetime, he became Dhritarashtra. And then he got 100 sons, and all 100 sons were killed in front of him, actually. Means when he was alive. So, some consequences you have to get after so many years or lifetimes. Yeah, but for sure. That is what. So, to avoid pain, consequences is not the best teacher. What is the best teacher? Vedas, scriptures. If you learn from the scriptures, you will become completely aware of what are the consequences of our actions. That is the way. Right? Okay. Yes, one last question. Yes.
Means if we can control our senses, then is we can control our emotions as well, like anger or any other emotions what we don't want to show, but we are showing normally.
Yes, yes. Of course, as I said, senses are at the lowest platform. Higher than the senses are our mind. And the mind contains emotions. So you may be able to check your senses, but you may not be able to check your emotions. That is a second level, right? So to check our emotions, what we have to do? The question is this. Naturally, above the mind is our intelligence. So as our intelligence becomes stronger, naturally we will be able to have check on our emotions as well. But there has to be a second thing along with that. You see, emotions, senses can go wrong, but emotions don't go wrong. This is one thing which we have to realize. Senses can be weak, but whatever emotions we are getting, they're true in itself, actually. So if you're actually getting anger, the anger is valid. You are feeling hurt. You're feeling bad. You're feeling maybe something wrong is happening to you. That's why anger is coming. Some value of yours is getting hurt by someone. That's why you got anger. So getting anger is not at all a problem. You are a human being. That's why you're getting anger. But the expression of anger is where we have to put a dharmic check. Yes, you're getting? What is the way we express our anger? That is what we have to learn. So, usually, this reform of checking our emotions requires two things. One is knowledge, but the second thing is also somewhere you should be receiving the what do you call that, support of love from somebody. You have to receive that for being able to be right at the emotional platform. Emotion is in the mind, and mind feeds on love. Say mother is loving the child, then such a child can regulate the emotions easily. Similarly, if we are receiving the love in our life, then we will be able to have the emotional check. Otherwise, emotions go wild. Why? Because the mind is irritated, actually. You're understanding? If the mind is irritated, you can't check your emotions. But for the mind to be happy, the love has to be fed. Right? You're getting? So this is very important. Now, human beings in this world will always make mistakes. So, humans can give us limited love, but God can give us infinite love. And that is why if we try to express our devotion to God in return we receive love of God. And that is one of the ways to check our emotions also. So that is why if somebody chants Hare Krishna and also learns about Krishna's life, you can read from Krishna book, the life of Sri Krishna. This will help you to be able to regulate your emotions. Why? Because you receive the love of Krishna in your life. God can give us complete, what do you call, infinite love. Humans sometimes they make mistakes, very difficult, right? But we still need some relationships in which we receive love. Maybe from our mother, maybe from brother, maybe from parents, husband, somebody we do need. Maybe friend, somebody whom we feel like they will not judge us. When you have that relationship, you will be able to make your emotional management much better. Hmm? Because senses to check is easier, but to check emotions is more difficult. But the way is there. I told you two methods. The first method is you start chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, attentively hearing the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And alongside you read Krishna book, like which is pastimes of Sri Krishna. This itself will fill you with love. And this will help you in emotional management. But the second is also support system from some friends, maybe husband, maybe brother, maybe sister, maybe mother, somebody who can give you love when you need it, the support when you need it, then you can have emotional regulations. This is a brief answer. Okay, thank you. So we'll end here. I am very grateful for your